9 September 2023, 4 o'clock, 46 minutes. We can observe quite clear, and it's not the very first time, that every time we got near to achieve the point as satisfaction of a right against this criminal system, the stress is ultimate, and we have signs that sometimes present in ourselves, because this activity illegal can be summarized as the criminal practice through institutional and state power to avoid consequence against the misuse of state and institutional power. It's very violent, extremely harmful, and respect nothing. We could observe this month quite clear the complaint and the issues at the International Criminal Court, setting the wild data attached as a project and as real-time presentation under interference all the time. It's the idea how this criminal system do to steal anything possible and transfer as intelligence for criminal groups and criminal organizations. If they can, still they try to destroy even a person, which can be an individual, a company, or a state. In general, they act through institutions, hitting others, and keep themselves covered at the institution. And since we unveil this, we could observe the really intentional acts to set the instability and disrespect the domestic tranquility not only in Brazil. It's like the maniac surrounded by a SWAT team that get a kid as host or something, hostage or something like this, and it starts to claim a lot of things and putting the vulnerable as the human shield. The shield of this criminal system is the fake records, going by specific hands after the hiring process, which and contracts that leads to corruption and nepotism. The hiring process as human resources to do the records as specific hands by criminal purpose, and the contracts in general, preparing the instruments used generally nowadays as technology. And some areas, for instance, like Rio de Janeiro or city or any other, you observe that we have a large range of fraudulent contracts on IT. And this was the idea of this system, which implies have the association and the extension of power by corruption, having this as a universal language spoken and understood by all. But it's a illegal act in all areas, and the pandemic criminal practice, which is the basis line of this complaint, the corruption, the functional corruption, which goes inside an architecture, and the international corruption, combining with other areas at the international system, setting the trust. We could prove this. The trust in a very specific moment will be at the collinear purpose as corruption. We prove this in the same way. The interference made, of course, that has the criminal purpose for sure, which is the advantage you can take by criminal and illicit acts, considering the violations of obligations like the social contract, which puts the commitment that the users of the state but defaulted ones. We will observe that the default goes in all areas and in all relations, and by this the environment can't be considered a reliable trustee. The Brazilian Constitution we can use to present the arguments that the default you do Brazil and peers, especially at the G20 after the violations in an area that has no excuse to do the violations you did, allowing the charge considering the interest at this paycheck sourced in a right under constitutional conformance will kind of be got as white collar crime, which is a criminal practice to take advantage by the default as a criminal behavior, which is a forbidden descripted element of the law, or a prescription that you must do and indeed you never considered, like the transparency of your acts, pointing to the violated guarantee of this credit, individual or any kind of person you consider that you do not respect the rights of the person in the same way, even at your own constitution as stoned clauses as guarantee, angle stone of the and reason of this legal instrument, which is the piece of the Western architecture as society. You are doing cultural destruction this way too. And this behavior puts you as an infrator to violating the credit that has the guarantee as protection against the not reliable trustee, with the interaction of you all and the corruption setting the trust. Of course, that's the elements of the credit, considering the French theory of Savigny, that puts the portable element of the debit, which can be held by someone that will request to have the accomplish of this obligation carably, that you can request this, but you will do the request because the peer or the part at the relationship didn't accomplish at first, which implies the instability at the financial relation and the credit relation affect the substance of the credit as itself. This kind of threat by the disrespectful behavior with the elements of the debt, but the debtors qualified at least as a risky group, holding the expectation of credit coverage and satisfaction, just like all other rights equally defaulted by the same group, sourced from Brazil up to G20, that has the commitment to violate rights in an area without excuse to do the violation, but no interest at all and accomplish the law and the constitution, disrespecting the construction of rights and guarantees since at least 1789, is doing cultural destruction in the same way by the misuse of state and institutional power, as we could prove. By this, we requested the financial penalties and the application of the fees, considering the entire value as 39 trillion, started and kicked from the 0 up to 39, as the behavior systematically complained against the aggression, systematically made, doing the annihilation it takes, always of defense and resistance that is a right also constructed, very abusive, extremely violent, and after got unveiled, putting themselves as the coward they are, hidden at the institution even after having this unveiled, operating shields to create more instability, do not accomplish the rights, and keep the violations by specific hands, which in general are officers, judges, ministries, or even chiefs at the executive government and others. Will be no surprise if we have kings and emperors on it, but they are all in solidarity by corruption, once proven, systematically observed as functional international interest. We wish the court to have the judgment with knowledge and cognitions enough offered. If has the interest of something else, we can for sure offer by law, by constitution, respecting the traditions, especially of the Western society, the unconstructed rights that we are struggle to keep as a guarantee we have as a system. This is respected for sure all the time by a system that only has interest in crimes and criminal practices by specific hands covered as fake records, and use this to kick the convictions, considering the corruption from obstruction, to put the shield of this criminal system as a Trojan horse. They know the crimes, the criminal, the entire workflow, the storage. And since we presented this blog this month, September 2023, as a proof, they committed the fraudulent acts as procedural fraud too in the International Criminal Court. Observe this as blazing act of misuse of state and institutional power. By this, we request one more time the declaration of economic espionage based on harassment and misuse of state power, practicing systematic violations of rights and guarantees, not only of the individual but the person as itself, which includes this moral entity as credit, recognized and no interest is confirmed and according with the law and the expectation as rational expectations we have against the crime, having listed names to be dismissed, applying the regression from institution against the chairs already dismissed, but them all at least on jail by the time they must be by crimes they committed. And the not reliable trustee as condition, which is a prison to protect the credit to observe the guarantee in Brazil. It's not a punishment, but a constraint, and civil constraint, I would say, the financial relation, and will remain until the satisfaction of the credit, considering the organization on public budget Brazil probably will have kind of renewed the entire public system in Brazil and all peers related with. But since we have this requested by facts and proofs notoriously offered by the circumstance that allow us to believe that the next generation, I would say, filling the chairs and having the power wouldn't have the same purpose as criminal purpose, or we will be fated to do all over again. And by this we requested 3 votes in oversee against the international crimes as a guarantee you have also in Brazil. The discrimination and individualization of punishment this time by criminal practice against the international crimes must be separated and segregated the criminals from society, put them in overseas. And we consider as reply by all threats made the possibility at least in 3 votes have elected by themselves one to be bombed. Have a nice, seems affordable. Have a nice weekend, and we close them on September.